Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Very happy to be here. I've been looking forward to this session. Today, the topic for discussion and for presentation is digital marketing, online marketing, and specifically how market Store Link e-commerce and how to build a customer acquisition engine for getting more and more customers on your Store Link solution. So that is the topic for today. And I'm mindful, please ask questions in the chat as we go along. I'm also going to reserve time for questions towards the end. So hopefully you'll have some questions as we move on, and I'll make sure to try to answer all of them as best I can. So first of all, very quickly intro about me. My name is Sven. I'm responsible for customer acquisition at Gelato. And what that basically means is digital marketing, online marketing. So think Meta, Google, TikTok, Snapchat, etc., YouTube, all of the online marketing channels. And in preparing for this webinar, I think it's important for you to also know that I've worked very much with GelatoConnect up until now. So where GelatoConnect was launched 6-7 years ago to where it is now, building traffic and acquiring customers for GelatoConnect, the POD platform. And my thinking has been, how can I share some of these learnings with you guys in order to start your journey of acquiring customers and building out your own POD platform, which is Store Link. And maybe before getting into the details and to the presentation, my background is actually finance. So I did a bit of a career pivot, say 10 years ago. So the last decade, I've been heavily focused on online marketing and customer acquisition. But my educational background is finance, investments, corporate finance, etc. So I've got quite a numbers brain to mix into this marketing field that I think is quite interesting, and which the presentation also is a bit based on that. So creative, I like to consider myself more of a numbers guy than a creative person, but that has served the topic and this growth journey that we've had with Gelato from an acquisition perspective quite well. So moving on, structuring this into 5 different components, right? And the question area is, how do we build a customer acquisition engine to constantly get an inflow on your website of new customers that want to sign up and start being your customers and producing revenue for you? And the pillars are basically linked mostly to different channels and different ways of getting customers acquired. Now, when we have all of these activated, that's when the real hyper growth can start. But you don't have to start with each one of them at the same time. And I'll get into that later on in the presentation. So to go through them, number 1, we've got Google Search, which is, most of you will be familiar with Google Search, the search engine, and the pay-per-click advertising in Google Search, which is intent capture, so pre-existing intent capturing. Secondly, we've got YouTube as a very fast-growing platform. How can we leverage YouTube, which is the home of the creator economy, so to speak? Thirdly, we have SEO and content. This is organic search and marketing organically rather than paid. We've got 4th, influencer partnerships, so influencer marketing. And we also have, lastly, number 5, the creative engine. And by that, I mean, how do you actually create ads that are enticing and that perform well in these different channels from a visual and from a messaging perspective, etc. So we have, yes. So before moving into the first pillar, just pausing here to frame the presentation a bit also, because we're not, or you are not, this is not about selling individual products. So this is not about selling mugs or selling a t-shirt or selling a poster to your end customer. This is about recruiting creators and selling a platform solution, a POD platform. So it's not an e-commerce play. It is a platform play. And what that means is you're not chasing people who are searching for, personalized t-shirts or custom mugs, etc. Those are e-commerce customers that will, work really well in the likes of like Google image ads or shopping ads that you'll see when you Google, you get the product ads, right? This is about platform recruitment. So the searches that you're want to be capturing for Store Link e-commerce is your sell print on demand products online, alternatives to competitors, best POD platform of 2026, the searches that are made by sellers or merchants or digital creators that want to move into selling POD products online in their Shopify store or in their WooCommerce or Etsy store, etc. And those are the ones that we really want to be addressing here. So that's just to frame and to make sure that we're sort of on the same page of what we're talking about here. So moving on and starting out here with sort of the Google ecosystem, Google plus YouTube. There is two sides of this when it comes to Google. It's first of all capturing intent, and then secondly it's building intent or building demand. And what Google is really, really good at is to capture intent. So capture audiences, customers, potential customers that are in market for your solution. And doing that in as cost-effective a way as possible. And what we've got here is we've got different intent clusters, we call it. So there's different kinds of searches that you want to be looking at in Google and that you want to structure your campaigns in Google to capture in order to reach and to recruit print-on-demand sellers on your POD platform. We've got the commercial clusters. So again, it's your sell print-on-demand products, start your own POD store. There's thousands of combinations of keywords and searches that you want to be including in your campaign and bidding for in Google to show up in the rankings. You've got competitor clusters, again, Printify, Printful, Gelato, alternatives, apps like Printify, apps like all of these kinds of keywords and searches. And you've got the comparison clusters, which are more comparing some of the best POD platforms, what I mentioned also on the previous slide. So what you should think about is in Google Ads here, it's not where you'll find the highest traffic volume, but you'll find the most relevant traffic and the most high intent traffic, which then typically is also the most costly traffic from a cost per click perspective. So how much you pay for every person out of this audience who clicks on your ad and lands on your website. However, as long as that clicker or that potential customer then converts into a customer at a high enough rate, that's fine. Then on the other hand, we've got YouTube, and YouTube is where this audience lives. This is where they spend their life, the creator economy, right? So we've got channels like side hustle channels, digital creators sharing their creations on YouTube and sort of tutorial videos of how they've created their poster or their t-shirt designs, etc. And there are many different channels and verticals within YouTube where these creators and potential POD sellers and merchants actually spend a lot of time, hours a day. And I always say you want to be present where your audience is heavily present. So you want to have a presence in YouTube because that's where your audience lives their lives. So the question is, we're on YouTube and we can launch some YouTube ads. who are we trying to, or how I should say, are we trying to target these audiences, right, within YouTube? This more top of funnel, higher funnel traffic of users that aren't sort of actively searching here right now for solutions. And you can do it in different ways. You can go on competitor placements. So again, you can have YouTube videos that you're running across other POD platforms, YouTube videos, because hypothesis being they're driving relevant traffic into their YouTube videos. So you want to show your ads, your video ads, when those videos are running in YouTube. There are also channels in YouTube that are highly relevant. I mentioned side hustle, passive income channels, e-commerce channels that have millions of users who are looking for starting a venture to gain some sort of financial freedom, set up an Etsy store, set up a Shopify store, having sort of that side income that they want to start generating. Maybe they're a designer, maybe they have sort of designs that they want to sell, and to generate an income stream. Targeting those channels with your ads, highly relevant. And then lastly, also like more of the custom intent audiences. So one of the most beautiful things about YouTube is that you can actively go in and target users that have previously searched for keywords that we mentioned in the Google section. So again, your users that have actively searched for print-on-demand companies or print-on-demand apps, or start selling posters online or t-shirts online or hoodies. Those searches you can then enter into custom audience inside of YouTube ads, and make sure that the ads target only those customers who then made those searches. And with a limited budget, we know that targeting and making sure that the ads show to the right people is super, super important. There's hundreds of millions of views on YouTube every day. You don't want to be spending your budget on people watching Candy Crush saga videos or sort of kids videos, right? You want to be spending your budget on where there's actually some level of intent and interest in your POD platform. So that was Google and YouTube and capturing intent, and in Google, building intent, building demand inside of YouTube. Moving on to the next section here, I'm going to speak a little bit about content and SEO. So I'm moving from the paid side to the organic side. And what I mean by that is, of course, paid marketing is nice, and it's a prerequisite in many cases to get the flywheel going and to start building your print-on-demand platform volume in a really big way. I sometimes think I wish I had a printing factory and printing facility or a production factory myself, because I think this opportunity is so enormous in general. Just wanted to say that because the opportunities are really endless to draw in highly relevant traffic and compete side by side with very large players, right, in this industry. So, but getting back into SEO and organic search, what that basically means is non-paid advertising. So ranking for search terms, ranking for keywords that are below the paid results, right? So for people skipping past the paid results and clicking on the next rankings, this is a longer term play. This is not something which works overnight and which you start today and tomorrow you rank, you shoot to the top of the rankings. But with AI, it is possible to do it in a much shorter time period than what it maybe was possible 2 years ago or 2 to 3 years ago. And one of the key aspects of SEO is that you want to become some sort of authority within your niche, right? So you want to become some kind of authority within the print-on-demand space, where users potential customers find useful information and content they want to consume about you, about the industry, which then again can lead to them becoming customers. So there's three main archetypes that I wanted to go through here, and we're talking now about creating blog pages, right? which is an incredibly important part of SEO. So creating content which resonates and which will then start ranking organically in the search engines, both in Google, but we should not forget also ChatGPT, Gemini, etc. So the AI searches, which are growing very fast. But a lot of the principles and the fundamentals link very closely to the traditional SEO. But both of those are super important. And also the AI engine, so your ChatGPTs of the world, typically what we see there is that it takes less time to start ranking there. It's maybe a bit more unpredictable about exactly why do you start ranking high, but the time to generate meaningful traffic and grow your rankings in those engines is generally shorter than what's been traditionally the case in Google. So number one here, in terms of content that you can start creating and think about starting to create to raise your authority and to start to grow traffic towards your print-on-demand platform, your new print-on-demand platform, alternatives pages. Again, it links also somewhat to what we described earlier. Your best POD apps, best Shopify print-on-demand apps, creating pages, web pages on your website which ranks your solution next to alternatives. What are the pros and cons of your solution versus the alternatives? Of course, most pros, not so many cons. But I think this is a really great opportunity also because you should view yourself as a challenger in this industry, right? As I just said, you can actually play on a level playing field with Printify and Printful and Gelato, right? Print on demand with a solution. And so that's a very big opportunity. And it means you can take that challenger position, right? Where customers that might be in market for finding a new solution, right? Maybe a more local solution, maybe a more specific solution catering for a certain SKU category or a certain SKUs. You can fill that position. Number two here is your how to start guides. So your how to start a POD store, how to generate how to generate money using print on demand. A setup guide for how to set up Shopify and your print-on-demand store, etc., etc. So again, working to become an authority within the field. And the good thing now with AI is you do not have to come up with all of this content yourself. You can use AI to come up with it. It doesn't mean to click on a button, close your eyes, and copy paste, without any critical thinking. Not at all. But it means that you can leverage AI in the right way to create highly relevant, great content that is 90% AI and 10% human input and review and sort of customization. So basically, if you think about the content production costs of SEO and of organic content, you reduce that by 90% versus what you'd have to pay an agency, let's say 24 months ago, right? So again, if you have a high class, and I'm not saying you should never use an SEO agency. That's not my point. But I'm saying if you were paying an agency 10,000 euros a month to create content for you, to really scale a content engine 18, 24 months ago, gradually now, that costs a sort of 1,000, right, rather than 10,000 a month. So those are the sort of order of magnitude improvements that we're seeing, right, enabled by AI. Lastly, number three here, niche profitability. I think also is a really great one for this use case. And what are the most profitable print-on-demand products? And then you can create content about your main products that you do best, your most profitable products, the ones that you want to sell more of. Margins breakdowns, like best products to sell on print-on-demand in 2026. Which products are trending, etc. That kind of content around profitability is quite powerful because keep in mind your potential customers here, they really want to make money on their Shopify stores, right? And you're enabling that. So that was SEO and organic. And moving on here to the next section, which is probably my personal favorite, influencer partnerships or borrowing trust from influencers. And I guess you all know what an influencer is. Looking back at the last 5, 6, 7 years of building the acquisition engine for Gelato Create and sort of scaling to a high volume of daily new customers on Gelato Create POD sellers, this was probably the most surprising for me how cost effective this channel really can be. Because influencers is a bit harder to measure than, you've got your ads, your Google ads or your meta ads, and which are very easy to measure because you've got all these metrics. But here actually it's not always so easy to measure, but still what we found to be highly effective. So going into the details here of influencer partnerships and influencer marketing, just got a couple of examples here from Gelato Create. The first one being a YouTube collaboration that we've done. And we've done multiple with this specific YouTuber, Mark Tilbury. Some of you might have heard of him or seen some of his videos. But here we're talking about long form influencer videos. So you can see here this video, 33 minutes, and it gained more than 2 million views, this specific video. And it's probably the most profitable thing that we've done from an acquisition perspective within influencer marketing for Gelato, because it's an evergreen collaboration that keeps on giving. It just keeps on trickling, views keep trickling in here, every single day, non-stop. And the whole idea here is that you'll have an influencer who will talk about the products that you want to sell, how to sell them, how to set up an account with your POD, with your Store Link e-commerce, your POD solution, how to start selling the first product, how to start scaling that. Right, so it's basically educational videos that users want to consume, that they want to spend half an hour watching. And then of course with your POD brand, your solution embedded into those videos, so that at the end of the video they'll want to go to you to get started. Very, very powerful. And then on the right hand side here we have an Instagram influencer, Why the Pigment, and he's a wall art creator. So he's typically whereas sort of on the left side I've got Mark Tilbury, more of a side hustle influencer and secondary income influencer. How can I make money in my spare time or create some financial freedom outside my day job? Why the Pigment here is more of a designer, right? So he's a creator himself, sharing designs. So he actually creates poster designs, for a living, or he's a designer for a living. And what he does is he creates videos showing the process of designing the product, and then he'll add to that with showing the process of how he then uploads it to your print-on-demand platform very easily and start selling it. So you get a very authentic content that really resonates with the end customer, which in this case is potential sellers, right, who want to also have a Shopify or Etsy or Squarespace, WooCommerce, etc. store. So these are two examples of influencer partnerships that we've done. We've done very many at this point, and what I want to get into now is, well, what does this mean for you? So, because the gut reaction many people will have is, well, this is complicated. This takes a lot of time. This, I need an team of influencer managers, and it's tons of back and forth, and we'll never be able to even get started here, right? That's not true, right? And for many of the things that I'm discussing here, that's no longer true. That you need a team, or you need need a marketing team of 5 people to sort of get this all going, right? So with influencer marketing specifically, this is the the tactic which has really been fantastic for us, and I would say specifically on Meta, so Facebook and Instagram, and also on TikTok. This is a tactic which has really, really been eye-opening for me and for us, which is what you want to do is you want to go and source and find what we call micro influencers. So small influencers who have beautiful content, engaging videos, but maybe they have, 3, 4, 5, up to 10,000 followers on their Instagram. So we're not talking about the, Kim Kardashians of the world here with, 50 million followers, right? We're not starting there. We're starting at the other end. And you use a tool to find them. And there are many different tools that can, provide you with tools that you can look into afterwards. One of them that we've used sometimes is called Hype Auditor to actually find these influencers, right? In the web browser, you've got a web tool and you've got a long list of influencers who are there to sell their services to people like you. And you can filter for different things. You can filter for, who have they worked with in the past, or what sort of niche do they typically create videos for? For example, side hustle, creator economy. Like it's quite easy to find influencers who are suitable for what I've described on the prior slide. And so what you'll do is you'll find them. You'll sort of, it goes quite automatically in these tools. You'll send them a message, invite them in, send them a gift, maybe, a printed, product sample, or sort of offer them to get a free product. Not necessarily lead with cash. So not telling you, I have, $500 or euros here that I want to, pay you to be my influencer, right? You don't have to start there. Because many times they'll be willing to provide content for free products. And thirdly here, what then happens once you've struck a deal with the influencer, this all goes online, right? There's no sort of offline back and forth via email. Once you've struck a deal and they've come back with the content, what you can do is you can get what we call a boost code from the influencer. So what that is basically, think about Instagram and think about you are posting a video on your Instagram, and you just get sort of 2 likes, right? Or 3 likes. It doesn't get any views. It doesn't get any likes. It just 99% of the content on Instagram, it just, falls through the floor after, a minute, right? So, but what you can do, of course, Meta being a very smart company, is that you can boost the content. You can pay for it to go up and to receive impressions and clicks and likes and comments and shares. You can boost your own content, but what you can do here with these boost codes is that you can tell the influencer, please send me your boost code. I really loved your video. Now I want more people to see the video. And what you do when you insert the boost code is that you then get your brand and the influencer's brand co-branded in Instagram. So it will be sort of Why the Pigment, as I mentioned on the prior slide, and your company or your POD brand or your POD websites as a co-branded ad, and then their organic video linking out to your site, right? So this is a fantastic opportunity, which allows you to amplify and scale the content which has shown big promise organically. So when the influencer first posted it, you see, wow, this is getting some likes. Let's go in and boost it, right? This is a great piece of content, really cheap, maybe free content, but it's really great, right? So now let's boost it, and it doesn't look like I'm sort of boosting my own content or my own brand. It's a co-branded thing. So what you basically get is the algorithm treating it as an organic piece. The audience trusts the creator that they're following or that they are seeing, and you get sort of this paid media reach at organic media authenticity. So this, I think Meta launched it roughly 2 years ago, that sort of ad type with the boost codes and the partnership ads and the collaboration ads. And again, it's a highly scalable way of going about it. And what you avoid then is, this endless back and forth for weeks to get anything done with an influencer who's sort of, doesn't respond to your emails or sort of, yeah. So that's influencer partnerships, a really, really highly recommended channel for print-on-demand platforms that want to grow fast. And then finally, what I'll go into at the end here is creative and generating creatives. And when I say creatives, what I mean by that is actual ads, right? So again, you will want to produce visual ads, images that you can post on your or run as an ad, for example, on Meta, on Facebook, or on Instagram as a complement to this influencer type ad. And the problem has been historically, again, I'm going to need to hire a creative team. I need to have a creative strategist. I'm going to have a creative, like a graphical designer specialized in ads creation. No more. That's no longer needed. And again, the reason is AI, and the fact that AI has come to the point now where anyone, can prompt with the right prompts and the right setup, and even automate, this end to end to get images that actually work. Right? They work in an ad account. They produce results, and that democratizes the landscape. So it's no longer you need an agency or you need a team. It's more you brief, right, within hours, you can say within minutes, but if you want to, you need to put some effort into the prompts and some effort into this. Of course, nothing comes, completely for free, but spend a day to create lots of different briefs. And then you can start putting it into, the AI engine. Typically for image creatives, use Google and use Nano Banana. That is the best model, at least for the time being. This changes, from time to time, which model is the best. But for image generation, Nano Banana from Google is very high quality. And you can see some of the, I just pulled a couple of the mockups that we created here for a consumer business that we're running ads against for a wall art campaign that we're running on Meta. And this is all basically combining designs that we have, that we've gotten either from, our graphical designers who've created product designs, or even from the likes of Shutterstock or Getty Images, combining those inside of Nano Banana, just pasting them, telling them what you want to have, and then, this is the output, one shot. I think it's pretty amazing. So, and I think that is a theme that you should, we've spoken about that now for SEO and generating blogs and content to gain authority within the print on demand space. Influencers, less AI in the creative, because they're still humans, right? Humans want to consume human content, but the operations around getting influencers on board and operating with influencers, it's no longer a really, really big thing. And then here with using Nano Banana as an example to create static ads, image ads that you can run. Because the beautiful thing also about that is, if we talk about Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok ads, and specifically if we hone in on Facebook and Instagram, because there's two platforms in the world that no one can now compete. It's Meta, Facebook, Instagram, and it's Google, due to their share market position and their size. So they should always be on, right, and producing results. And the thing which happened was that Meta, they deleted their old ad algorithm, a year or two ago, and they created an entirely new algorithm. And that new algorithm, it craves one thing: different variants of creatives, different kinds of creatives, like woman holding up a poster like this on a wall or on a table, side by side comparison of before and after. Like, this room was an ugly messy room before, now look at how nice it is with this poster. Like, there's hundreds of angles and add creative messaging that you can come up with, and previously, historically, you'd need a team to come up with all of this and to produce all of this, and it was a lot of labor to be able to do that. But that is what's really possible here with AI, is to shortcut that. And it so happens that the new meta algorithm wants to have variation. It doesn't want to have like, okay, I'm going to create one of one of this middle one here with a beige background, and then I'm going to create one with a gray background because maybe, the audience likes the gray, better than the beige. That's not how it works anymore. That's sort of minuscule A/B testing, right? That's not how it works anymore. You want to create as many as possible creatives with different angles, very different creatives, put them all into the ad account, and then let the algorithms decide which is the winners. Because the algorithms will analyze the image and they'll match them with different audiences automatically, right? In Meta. So it's a really unlocker. It's an unlocker for utilizing Meta for people who've never used the channel before. And also for us in Gelato, who don't have a big marketing team, right? We can really scale ourselves now with these tools. Yeah, so wrapping up here, moving towards the end is, and I've got some questions here also that I'll answer at the end. Is you don't have to do everything at once. You don't have to start doing everything at the same time. You can start a Google search, a Google Ads campaign with some of the keywords that I mentioned, and have that as your first sort of milestone in this process of building your own, print-on-demand customer base, and see what happens. How much do you pay per click? How does it convert? Just understand how these users are interacting with your site and with the solution, right? And converting. And that is, that takes, only a few days to set up. When it comes to influencer partnerships, you can definitely also, get started with that. And within, a few weeks, you'll have your first couple of influencers. They'll produce some videos, and you can start, boosting them a little bit. Primarily, I'd maybe start with Instagram and Facebook, and getting the boosting codes and see how does this traffic converts, right? And then when it comes to organic, start posting some blogs, start understanding how do I become an authority within this field, and how can I utilize AI to help me create that content, right? And have a cadence where you publish content, a couple times a week. Time cap it. Don't be spending 2.5 hours, 3 hours every single day on this, right? That's not the point. Think about this as an opportunity to, where some of the biggest players in the print-on-demand industry have big marketing departments, lots of people who are obsessing over this. Actually, the playing field is quite level now. You don't need that. You can piggyback off, some of the things that they've done. Look at what they've done, and start taking on board customers, because there's definitely customers out there that are looking for alternatives. So yeah, that is today's session and what I wanted to go through. And as I said in the beginning, we are looking at also a V2 or a follow-on session later on this year, going maybe more into depth about how to activate certain of these things in practice. So more of a tutorial session, but we'll come back to that. Now, I have some questions here that I'll just quickly go through, and let's see. So yeah, so the first question that I have here is, and now I just need to get that up. Yeah, so the first question I have is, how do I get started with YouTube ads? So some of you might be slightly familiar with Google Ads from before, and having tested somewhere down the line to create an ad account in Google. But then you're thinking, well, YouTube is a very different thing. My answer to that is it's really easy, because everything happens within the same account. So your search ads that you see in the regular Google search, and your YouTube ads, the video ads that are served on the YouTube platform, you all create them in the same interface, in the same way. There's very easy tutorials inside of Google also to get started. So you basically use the same Google Ads account for creating. You just click the plus and create a new campaign, and then you select YouTube instead of search, and then you can get going. And And then I have a second question here, which is, what should my starting budget be for this activity, for growing your presence online with paid marketing, building your Store Link e-commerce store and your print-on-demand presence online? And what I always say here is start small and learn and iterate, right? And that's also, I think, so important, is you do not have to go big and commit a lot of capital or a lot of spend upfront and see what happens. Start small. Start with, again, here I mentioned sort of 30 to 80 euros per day. And then once it works, you should scale, right? I think that is the key. Once you have some of these keywords, you see how much traffic can actually generate. How do these traffic sign up to my platform and place an order or start selling their Shopify volume over my POD platform? And then you can ramp up once you see what works. Then you should be willing to ramp up and do more and be bolder. But there's no minimum budget. You can start with €1 if you want. Like there's literally the smallest budget you can put into Google. I think it's less than €1 a day, right? And then you can pause it whenever you want. So there's no entry budget that you need to get started. And then the final question I think I'll take here is where do I send my traffic to which pages, etc. And that is a really good question, because what we're doing here is we're acquiring traffic and many times paying for traffic to come to your website and to your POD solution. And then, of course, it's important that when they arrive at your website, they're able to convert, right? And they're able to go into the funnel and work with the system and actually don't just drop off or bounce, as we say. So creating landing pages and testing different landing pages by seeing which landing pages make users stick around and spend time on site is very important. And again, it shouldn't be create 10 parallel landing pages on day one, but have some hypotheses around what's working. And typically what's working on landing pages is you have to build trust. So again, customer testimonials, your history, right, of being in the business for a lot of years, your USPs, your unique selling points. What puts you makes you unique versus the largest players in the industry, right? Could be that you're local, right? Or that you're the best at a certain product category. And so customers in market for that product category in that geography will be super interested in your solution, because many of the biggest players are more general, right? Present all over the world, and selling all product categories, being not necessarily the best at a certain category. So that is very important and a great question. And I think that was more or less it for today's session. So I'd like to thank you for taking the time. And again, also happy to take questions that might come up afterwards. We'll share some materials. And as I said, I hope to see you again sometime down the line for more specifics of how to grow the rocket ship of your new print-on-demand platform, which is Store Link. So thanks a lot and have a good rest of your afternoon and day.